Galadriel. Galadriel, more than almost any of Tolkien's characters, seems to embody the spirit of his works. She is epic and beautiful, and capable of terrible power. She is wise and gifted beyond measure, and the world's interest in her is everlasting. This remains true for die-hard fans and newcomers alike. Her tale is a long and adventurous one, and sometimes unclear, but today we will look at who she is, what she has done, and what she means to all of Arda. Galadriel is a Noldorian elf, born in Valinor in 1362 of the Years of the Trees. Her father was Finarfin, a prince of the Noldor, and her mother was Eärwen, a princess of the Teleri. She was given the name Artanis at birth, and earned more names over time, such as Nerwen, Quenyan for man-maiden, given to her by Eärwen, and Alatariel, or crowned with radiant garland, in reference to her silver-golden hair. This name later translates to Galadriel in Sindarin. She was the only daughter of Finarfin and Eärwen, but had 3 brothers, in Finrod, Angrod, and Egnor. Galadriel in her youth was known for her physical prowess, proud character, and wondrous nature. Yet even then, she had wisdom beyond that of others. She is bold, as well as deeply gentle and perceptive, a gifted and powerful being, even amongst her own kind. She has the capability of foresight, able to see into the minds of others. She had seen a darkness in Feanor, and although intertwined with him, was his adversary until his death. Most notable of their early interactions was her refusal to gift him a hair from her head, as it captured the light of the 2 trees and inspired the creation of the Silmarils. Thrice did she deny him, and they were at odds with each other ever after. He became the strongest of the Noldor, but she was certainly the wisest. Having been inspired by Feanor's desire to sail east, she too found within herself a great desire to see the world and create realms of her own. She could not shake the ambitious urge and would make her way to Middle-earth eventually, but not without strife. Galadriel would defend the Teleri, the people of her mother, in the kinslaying at Alqualonde, and after abandoning the house of Finarfin and burning the ships, she swore to thwart Feanor in all of his efforts thereafter. Different versions of the kinslaying are told regarding Galadriel, but it is widely agreed that she did not support the Noldor in that event. Despite a chance for pardon by the Valar, Galadriel travels to Middle-earth via the icy northern path of the Helcaraxe with the rest of her house, including Finrod and Fingolfin. Early in the First Age, Galadriel and her brother Finrod settled in Doriath under the rule of King Thingol. Thingol had been mostly uninterested in housing any Noldor, but was related to her through Eärwen, Galadriel's mother. Galadriel remained uninvolved in the wars with Morgoth, believing the only chance of victory was in the Valar's intervention. Finrod had travelled southeast to establish what would become Nargothrond. During her time in Doriath, she was able to learn much from Melian, the Maya and wife to Thingol, including the recipe for lembas bread. But when Melian inquired about the story of the Noldor, Galadriel spared many details regarding the death of Finwë, Feanor's oath, and the kinslaying. Eventually, her brothers Angrod and Egnor would visit Doriath, and the former would fill the story for Thingol and Melian, leaving their visit with heavy hearts. Galadriel would travel to Nargothrond at times, but stayed mostly in Doriath, where she met Celeborn, to whom she would be betrothed until the end of the war, as was custom among the elves. She did, however, live in Finrod's Nargothrond for a time upon its completion. Angrod and Egnor were eventually slain in the Dagor Bragolach in First Age 495, a major battle in which Morgoth's forces slew many brave elves and men. Finrod would be slain as well by Sauron's werewolves during his attempt to fulfill his oath to Barahir, father of Beren. After the War of Wrath that ended the First Age, Galadriel remained in Middle-earth, not receiving pardon for her role in the Noldor's departure from Aman. And sometime late in the First Age, before the fall of Nargothrond, First Age 495, she and Celeborn pass east through the mountains of Eriador. Galadriel would find herself much more involved in the affairs of the Second Age, largely dealing with the re-emergence of Sauron in Middle-earth. She and Celeborn spent time ruling in Lindon under the High King Gil-galad and had a daughter they named Celebrian. They would move back east to help establish the realm of Eregion, the new stronghold for the elves west of the Misty Mountains. They were prosperous for a while, keeping open relations and trading with the dwarves of Khazad-dûm. She saw in them a potential for allies in future conflicts, as well as in the Nandorin settlement in Lorinand. In the 800s of the Second Age, she meets with King Aldarion of Númenor in Tharbad during his early voyages to Middle-earth. She had developed into a wise and respected diplomat. One such emissary was not so well received by Galadriel, going by the name Annatar, Lord of Gifts. Annatar, who is Sauron in disguise, arrives in Eregion and guides Celebrimbor and his company in the forging of the Rings of Power. Galadriel distrusted him as she did Feanor, but the feeling was reciprocated. Annatar sees her as his greatest enemy and convinces Celebrimbor to do so as well, and Galadriel is sent away from the realm, passing east through Moria, with Celeborn to Lorinand. When Sauron is discovered through the use of the One Ring, the noble elves decide to spread the Rings of Power amongst a few trusted individuals, and Galadriel receives Nenya, the Ring of Water. She does not use the ring during these times due to Sauron's influence. Second Age 1693 marked the beginning of Sauron's war against the elves. After his eventual defeat in Second Age 1700, Galadriel travels to Imladris to reunite with Celeborn, and the first council is held with Elrond. Imladris is declared the new stronghold of the East. The couple settle in the coastal lands of Belfalas for a time, before returning to Imladris once again in the Third Age. The Third Age progresses uneventfully at first for Galadriel, with only a growing suspicion of darkness in the East, believed to be a Nazgul. Her daughter, Celebrian, weds Elrond in Third Age 109, and would sail west some years later after a brush with orcs. She still believes Lorien to be a good stronghold in an eventual war. In Third Age 1980, darkness drove out the dwarves of Moria, as well as many elves in Lorien. Galadriel and Celeborn take up rule as the Lord and Lady of Lothlorien. In Third Age 2463, Galadriel and others form the White Council to strategize against evil forces in the realm. She supports Gandalf as its leader, but it would be Saruman who takes up that responsibility. During those years, as they ride to battle, she uses her power to cloak Eorl and the Rohirrim to be in a mist that hides them from Sauron in Dol Guldur. The White Council remains largely inactive, however, until Sauron is proven to be the source of darkness in the East. In Third Age 2941, after Sauron's presence is confirmed, she and the White Council drive him out of the wicked fortress. Dol Guldur was a former capital of Lorien, and once corrupted by Sauron, would remain a major threat throughout the wars of the East. Galadriel meets Aragorn sometime between then and the War of the Ring, in Third Age 3019. Upon his arrival to Lothlorien, after much travelling, she urges him to exchange his worn-out clothes for something more princely. Not long after, he is betrothed to her granddaughter, Arwen. Galadriel plays a significant role in the War of the Ring, as is largely depicted in the films. She hosts the Fellowship after their trip through Moria. Here she is able to further instill the magnitude of their quest, including the use of her mirror with Frodo and Sam. At this time she is tempted with the One Ring, as Frodo is still afraid and looking to dispense of it, but passes the test. This moment also signifies her being worthy of pardon from the Valar, and her welcome back to the West. She acknowledges the dominion of men and the end of her time in Middle-earth. She does not let the Fellowship depart her realm without gifts. Aragorn receives a sheath and green elfstone as a symbol of hope, as well as engagement to Arwen. This is a custom of the Noldor. However, it is typically the bride's mother, not grandmother, who passes it on. Merry, Pippin, and Boromir receive belts. Legolas a bow of the Galadrim, Sam some malorn seeds, and a box of earth from her garden, and Frodo a phial containing the light of Eärendil. To Gimli, she gifts 3 of her shining locks, despite his awkward but graceful request for only 1, mocking the denials she once dealt to Feanor. Some gifts, such as Frodo's file, are valuable to the members throughout the war, while others are simply rare treasures. Galadriel's deeds during the war extend beyond Lothlorien. It is she who summons Gwaihir to rescue Gandalf after his battle with Durin's Bane, dressing him in white garments to signify his new lead of the White Council. She communicates with Aragorn about the path of the dead and with other rangers of the north. While in Lothlorien, though, Galadriel is faced with 3 separate attacks from Dol Guldur to the east. Thrice she repels them with help from the power of her ring, Nenya, and their elven army. When Barad-dûr too falls, signifying the defeat of Sauron, Galadriel, Celeborn, and Thranduil of Mirkwood make their way across the Anduin River to rid Dol Guldur of its evil inhabitants. Finally, Galadriel uses her prowess to lay final blows to the structure once and for all. After the war, Galadriel attends the wedding of Aragorn and Arwen in Minas Tirith, and also King Theoden's funeral procession to Rohan. In Third Age 3021, after spending her last days in Lothlorien, she departs for the Grey Havens and the Undying Lands thereafter. Traveling with Elrond and Bilbo, she crosses paths with the hobbits in Woody End, and they all head to the Grey Havens together. Galadriel is also believed to have had a role to play in allowing Gimli to join Legolas going west in the Fourth Age. Celeborn, too, would meet her there years later, thus ending what we know of her time thereafter. Galadriel's story is long, adventurous, and sometimes unclear, yet that only adds to her alluring nature. Her fascinating character is a driving force in the events of Middle-earth. Possessing wisdom beyond measure and an intuition to match, she earns reverence and fear amongst the children of Ilúvatar. She will remain one of the most spectacular figures in fantasy literature forever.